morning, friends. Welcome back to this online lecture series on earthquake resistant design of structures. The skyline behind me looks definitely fascinating to each and every one of you. I am very much sure about that. But in this skyline, you also need to look at the houses that are going to be, you can see at the bottom end of the screen. That is, the small buildings are also going to play an important role, because whenever we are going to design a structure, then it is our duty to make sure that houses that are small in height and to the skyscrapers, all these buildings should be structurally safe when it comes to the application of earthquake. Right? So our focus in this present series that we are discussing is on the good performance of masonry buildings and subjected to lateral loads, and that is what we have been discussing in the previous lectures also. And today also we will discuss a couple of detailing aspects with respect to the performance of masonry buildings subjected to lateral loads. So let us start. Right now, in the previous lecture, if you remember, then we have discussed regarding the performance or the basic structural configuration that is required for the good performance of masonry buildings. And in that particular configuration, if you remember, then we have discussed or we have focused on two aspects primarily. Where the first aspect is regarding the structural configuration of the masonry building, that is the size and shape of the building and the performance of the building in case of earthquake load. And in order to achieve this good performance, we discussed two prerequisites, where first was the box section in the building, that is a entire unit should act as a single unit. And the second criteria was regarding the opening of the or the location of the openings in the building, that is the location of door and window. Why this aspect was necessary? Because what is going to happen is that in case of masonry building, the load transfer is going to be from the roof to the walls, from the walls to the foundation, and from the foundation to the soil. Right? So now if these walls are going to have higher percentage of openings, then as a result of that, the stiffness of this particular building is going to reduce. And when the stiffness will be reduced, then as a result of that, the connectivity between the floor, connectivity between the roof and the wall is going to reduce. And as a result of that, the complete transfer of horizontal forces from the roof level to the ground level cannot be assured. Right? So in order to achieve a good performance of masonry buildings, it is necessary that the entire unit should act as a box unit, and at the same time the location of door and window is going to play a very vital role. Right? So now coming back to the first point, that is the box section. In order to achieve this box section, there is one more component that we are going to focus in this particular lecture, and that is the horizontal band. So we are going to discuss why are horizontal bands necessary in the masonry building. Right? So the function or the objective, first we need to understand the objective of these horizontal bands in the building. That is horizontal bands in the name is horizontal band because it is going to be in horizontal plane. However, the location is going to be varying along the height of the building. Right? So the horizontal bands are going to play an important role in good performance of masonry buildings. How they are going to play an important role? They are going to play an important role by ensuring that all the corners of the building are tied together, and the entire unit acts as a single unit when the application of lateral force will be there. Right? And when this particular thing will be happening, then as a result of that, we can ensure that good transfer of lateral load is there, and the building remains stable when the earthquake is going to be there. Now there are 3 to 4 types of horizontal bands. First is known as the plinth band, second is known as lintel band, third is known as roof band, and then there is gable. Right? Now depending upon the location, these bands are named differently. Right? So we try to understand these 4 bands by means of a sketch. Right? So now as you can see in this particular figure over here, 2 figures are given. First figure is having a building with a flat roof, second figure is the building with a pitched roof. So in case of building with the flat roof, you can see that 3 bands are visible. First band is the plinth band, second is the lintel band, and third is the roof band. And in case of the pitched roof, there is one additional band which is known as the gable roof. Right? So now what happens is that, as you can see, as I said, that depending upon the location of these bands have been named accordingly. So if I talk about the plinth band, then the plinth band is located at the plinth level, and that is why it is known as the plinth band. Then there is lintel band, which is located exactly above the opening of door and window, and that is why it is known as the lintel band. Then one more band is provided at the roof level, which is known as the roof band. And if the building is pitched roof, then in that case gable band is also going to be there. Now it is not necessary that all these bands have to be provided in all types of building. Right? IS 4326 is giving you a guideline depending upon the number of stories, depending upon the height of the building, and depending in which the particular, depending upon the seismic zone in which the building is located, these all these four bands may also be required, and only couple of bands from this list may also be required. For example, if zone 2 is there, then the possibility is that if you provide only one of these bands, then it is okay. But when you talk about high seismic zone, that is seismic zone 4 and 5, then the possibility is that as per IS 4326, you may have to provide all these four bands, and in addition to these four bands, you will have to do the vertical reinforcing also, right? That is what we are going to discuss in the next lecture. But in this lecture, the focus is going to be on the horizontal bands, and that is what we are continuing, right? So depending upon the location, depending upon the location, these bands have been named as plinth band, lintel band, roof band, and gable band. In case of zone 5, seal band is also going to be there, where the seal band is to be provided at the seal level, right? That is the seal of the window. So depending upon the different locations of the building in different seismic zones, height of the building, and at the same time the number of stories that are constructed as a load bearing structure, these criteria can be modified. Right, now we try to understand the role of the lintel bands. Now, as we have discussed in the earlier lectures, then we talk about masonry building, then basically we are talking about load bearing structures. And in case of load bearing structures, two components are there, or two definitions we have seen. First is the out of plane bending, and second is known as in plane bending, right? So what is going to happen is that whenever these lintel bands will be provided, or these horizontal bands will be provided, then it will try to connect all the four corners of the building together, right? And as a result of that, what is going to happen is that whenever an external horizontal push is going to be applied, then these walls will try to move parallelly, or will try to move together and at the same time. And when this particular thing will be happening, then they will be they will be acting as a support to each other, and it will allow that the building will perform good in case of earthquake, and the load will be transferred safely to the ground, right? So in case of masonry buildings, we have discussed two terms. First is out of plane bending, second is in plane bending, or strong direction and weak direction. And we have discussed that whenever the force is applied along the length of the wall, then it is the strong direction, and whenever the force is applied perpendicular to the wall, then it is known as weak direction. So these horizontal bands are going to increase the stiffness or performance of building in the weak direction. Why? Because when this particular wall will be applied in one direction, right? So for one direction, for one type of wall, it will be a strong direction. For the other type of wall, it will be a weak direction. So whichever type of wall is going to be in the weak direction, right, that particular wall will be supported by means of the strong direction wall, and as a result of that, this particular action is going to be acting as a box unit, and it will be able to transfer the horizontal forces safely, right? Now, in 1993, Latur earthquake, right, which was measured on an intensity scale of 9. We remember that in the lecture of intensity and magnitude, we have discussed that for intensity scale, the ratio is the range of the scale is from 1 to 12, where 1 is least severe and 12 is most severe, right? So in intensity scale of 9, where the actual shaking of earthquake can be considered to be a huge amount, two different scenarios were observed in a village in Latur, right, in 1993. In the first photograph, you can see that buildings which were majority of the buildings in the village, which were not having these horizontal bands, they could not perform well during this earthquake, and as a result of that, huge amount of structural loss was observed in this kind of building. Almost irreparable buildings were observed, right? But when you talk about couple of buildings that had been provided by these horizontal bands or lintel bands, their performance was observed to be good, and they were able to sustain a shaking of even the intensity of 9 on the Richter scale, right? So you can imagine that how vital this horizontal band is going to play a role in the good performance of masonry buildings when subjected to lateral load. Right, now next we come to the design of lintel bands. So when we talk about design of lintel bands, just like for example, it is a case of a simply supported beam. A simply supported beam is going to be loaded in vertical direction. So what we do is we are going to have vertical deflection, and we calculate the bending for the vertical load, and then we provide the steel accordingly. But when you talk about the lintel bands, then lintel band is going to be subjected to two types of load. First is the vertical load, and second is the horizontal load. Vertical load is going to be from the brick wall that is going to be constructed above this particular band. It may be present, it may not be present, right? And second case is going to be the load that is going to be applied to the application of horizontal force, that is the earthquake, right? So when vertical load will be applied, then as a result of that, vertical bending will be taken, vertical bending will take place, which is also known as in plane bending. And when the horizontal load will be applied, then in that case, the horizontal bending will take place, or which is also known as plan bending or out of plane bending, right? And the design of these horizontal bands or lintel band is going to be governed by the design, the calculation that is done for the out of plane bending. Why? Because in case of vertical load, what is going to happen? We are going to do the calculation, but this in the vertical direction, this lintel band is always going to be supported by the wall beneath, right? And as a result of that, there are very less chances that this particular lintel band will go undergo vertical deflection, but horizontal deflection cannot be neglected, right? So as a result of that, the design of these horizontal bands are going to be governed by the out of plane bending. And why out of plane bending comes into the picture, that I will explain you in the next figure. Right, so if you look at this particular figure over here, then what is done is that the horizontal earthquake force that is shown is going to be applied in one direction, that is from right to left. Right, now we know that whenever the earthquake force is going to applied in the direction right to left, the inertia force which is going to try to resist this particular force is going to act in the opposite direction. That is, it is going to act in the left to right direction. So as you can see in the figure, the earthquake load is applied from right to left, and the inertia force is going to be applied from left to right. Right, inertia force is a component, it is a product of mass into acceleration, where mass is going to be the dead weight of your structure, right, or the seismic weight of your structure. So more the dead weight, more the seismic weight, more the seismic weight, more the application, more the generation of lateral forces, and more the transfer of lateral forces to the building. Right. So now what is shown is that due to the application of this horizontal load in one particular direction, inertia force is generated in the other direction. And due to this generation of the inertia force, you can see that one particular wall is going to undergo bending, right? And the other two walls are going to undergo the action of pulling, right? So as you can see, the two short walls in which the direction of inertia force is there, these two walls are going to undergo bending. Or in other terms, I can say horizontal bending or out of plane bending, right? And when this out of plane bending will take place, then as a result of that, from the corners of these two walls, the tension force will be transferred into the two long walls, and as a result of that, the two long walls are going to experience the tension force, and they are going to undergo the effect of pull, right? So that is why this particular system, when is going to be applied, then the entire it is a combination of bending plus tension action, right? And this tension is going to be transferred in the long walls from these corners of this wall, that is going to be the right angle corners of the walls. So if these corners are detailed properly, then and only then the effective force transfer can be there, and then only the load can be easily transferred to the foundation and from the foundation to the soil, right? So we have understood that the design of lintel band is going to be governed by the out of plane bending or the horizontal bending, and it is also going to undergo the effect of tension force, or in other words we can say the pulling effect, right? Now we look at the guidelines that are provided by IS 4326 for this design of lintel bands. In earlier stages, wood was also used, because in that time the construction material that was used was timber, but presently we see that we do not use that material. So RCC is going to be a major component. So RCC is basically a combination of concrete plus reinforcing bars, right? So the ductility that we are going to try to achieve in these particular masonry buildings is going to be through the detailing that we are going to do for the reinforcing bars, because concrete itself is a brittle material, right? So it is not going to give you any signs of deformation. But if the detailing is done proper, then through the ductile behavior of reinforcing bars, we can assure that we will have some signs before the failure, which will help us allow to reduce the damage to the property as well as to the loss of lives, right? So when you talk about the design of lintel bands, then IS 4326 is giving you the basic guidelines. That is, the minimum thickness of lintel bands for short span should be 75 mm, and for large span it has to be minimum 150 mm, right? And at the same time, the minimum diameter of bar that is to be used to be provided in these lintel bands is minimum 8 mm, and the stirrups that are to be provided has to be of minimum 6 mm with 150 mm center to center, right? To understand this, we go back to our previous sketch where two details are shown, where one is the detail that is shown for the short span, second is shown for the long span. First sketch is showing that the thickness of the lintel band is 75 mm. In the second figure, you can see that the thickness is 150 mm. However, these are not stringent guidelines, it will be dependent upon the design also. That is, you cannot just give 75 thickness or 155 mm. If the bending is more and it is not able to resist, then the section has to be increased also, right? Just like in case of beams, we do that we calculate the minimum depth required, and if it is not fulfilling the criteria, then we increase the depth also. Similarly, here also the thickness has to be increased if the criteria is not satisfied and the thickness of 75 or 150 mm is not given. However, in case of 75 mm thickness, we can see that only 2 reinforcing bars are provided and they are connected by means of links. And if the thickness is 150 mm or more, then 4 reinforcing bars, 2 at top, 2 at bottom, are to be provided, and these 4 bars are to be connected by means of a ring that is shown, and the guidelines of this detailing of this ring has to be as per IS 4326. Lastly, before we end today's lecture, we take a look at the earthquake resistant feature that is required for the good performance of this masonry building, and how the good detailing of horizontal band can assure good transfer of forces from the corners of these walls. So the first case that is shown, that is for the wooden planks. However, that is out of use right now. So next we come to the horizontal bands and the detailing of horizontal bands in RCC material, right? So 2 sketches are shown. First sketch is the correct practice, second is the incorrect practice. So if you look at the incorrect practice, then you can see that at the corners, the reinforcing bars are not extended to the other side of the wall, and development length or anchorage length is not provided. So when this development length or anchorage length will not be provided, then what is going to happen is that when the walls are going to undergo bending and pulling action, then as a result of that, the chances are that these walls may separate from each other from the corners, that is the right angle corners, and as a result of that, we will observe that some cracks will be developing at that particular junction. However, you can avoid this type of failure in the structure, and that is by ensuring the correct practice or the correct method of detailing, and that is the reinforcing bars in both the directions should be anchored to the other side of the wall by at least the development length that is to be calculated as per the guideline that is given by IS 456, where the minimum development length is starting from 45 times the bar diameter, right? So similarly, depending upon grade of concrete, grade of steel, the development length can be calculated, and according to that development length, the detailing can be adopted on the drawing as well as on the side. And if this detailing is ensured on the side as well as on the drawing, then as a result of that, we can say that the performance of these particular buildings under the effect of lateral load is going to be greatly enhanced when the horizontal bends will be taken into consideration, right? That's it for this lecture. In the next lecture, we'll be discussing regarding the importance of vertical bends as well. So stay tuned for the further lecture series. Thank you.